Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Monday, friends. Happy Monday. I am so excited to be with you today. My name is Karen Rugley, and Wow. I get the pleasure of working in the Center for Student Action, and I am excited to tell you about an awesome week that we have ahead for you. This is the start of the local and global engagement week. Can we give Jesus a shout for what he's doing locally and globally? Yes. So we had one of these weeks in the fall, and we are privileged to do it again in the spring. And so there's a few things that I want to draw your attention to that we have crafted for you this week. Starting today is Missionaries on the Walk. It's a 3-day event where we have 25 different missions organizations and agencies that are out on Cougar Walk for you to hear more about what God is doing through their agencies and for you to potentially get connected. Some of our action team hosts will be out there, so if you are on an action team, make sure that you stop by and say hello. That will be from Monday to Wednesday. They'll be out on Cougar Walk from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tonight, out on Cougar Walk as well, from 5 to 7, we have our night market. Yes! Which, if you have never been to a night market, you are missing out, let me tell you. So we have 35 of our action teams and our different international student groups on campus that will be selling things as a fundraiser. There'll be plenty of food, so make sure that you bring cash or Venmo because we will be excited to get you connected to some of the cool things that our action teams are doing and our international student groups are doing for fundraising. So that's tonight. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in Cougar Dome is Glorify, which is an open mic testimony time of what God has been doing and ways that God has been glorified in your life. So come and hear about what God's doing in the lives of your student body. Wednesday, sorry, I know I'm giving you a lot of info. Wednesday morning, we have Pastor Eddie B. Yun coming. He's a pastor in Northern California, but he also spent some time as a full-time missionary. And so he actually developed or made a film called Save My Soul, and it's spelled S-E-O-U-L, as in the capital of Korea, Save My Soul. And it talks about all of the different things that he got to see and take part in, especially around human trafficking in Korea. And so he's coming to speak in chapel on Wednesday morning. And then at 4:30 here in UTCC, we're going to be having a screening of Save My Soul. So you can come and see the different things that he got to see and that he took part in while he was there and how God is moving in Korea. And as an added incentive, and there's a question and answer session after that, as an added incentive, we are giving the first 200 students in and out on us. So we really want you to be there. If you aren't familiar, In and Out actually has a very strong anti-human trafficking campaign. And so through this, they're generously donating that for us. Last but certainly not least, your Friday chapel speaker is a woman named Inez Velasquez McBride. She is the chaplain at Fuller Theological Seminary, my alma mater, which is just down the road in Pasadena. And she's going to be talking to you about what God has been doing there at Fuller, how you can get plugged into the local community, lots of different things. She is amazing and phenomenal. So there is a lot happening this week. We want you to take part in all of it because we know that God is at work, not just on this campus, but here locally and in the globe. And so we're excited for you to take part in all of that. So today, we actually have a special chapel for you. We have asked a few of these different host organizations that we partner with on a regular basis, we have asked a few of their representatives to come and to talk to you about their personal journey, how they came into ministry and missions, as well as what their organizations are seeing around the world. I want you to hear from me that these are 3 stories, and they are important stories. They are not prescriptive of how God is moving in all missions, and we know that we're not taking Jesus anywhere, right? Jesus is already at work here in the city of Azusa. He's already at work on every end of the globe. And so the folks that are here today are excited to tell you about how God has stirred in their own personal hearts, as well as what God has been doing with each of them. So would you join me in welcoming our panel? We're going to start by having each of them introduce themselves and their organization to you and tell you a little bit about what they specifically do in each organization. So, Robin, take it away.
My name's Robin Alm, and I am the International Mission Trip Advisor for Group Mission Trips. And we've got 4 action teams going out from APU this summer. Really excited about that. Group Mission Trips does short-term mission trips. Maybe some of you in high school went on a group mission trip with your youth group. We do domestic mission trips for junior and senior high. And then our international trips are really geared to anyone. So we might have families or individuals or youth groups or college groups or whoever who wants to go and serve. We partner with partners on the ground, whether it's a missionary or a church or a local ministry, so that there's always an ongoing presence in where we send our teams. And we send our teams in to help and come alongside those long-term ministries. So we're excited for those of you who are serving with us this summer, and for everyone going somewhere. It's going to be awesome.
Hey y'all, I'm Lindsay Sprague, and I am with TMS Global, and I am the coordinator of mobilization. So TMS Global is a mission sending community, but we come alongside individuals and churches to help them discern, but also live out their unique missional call. So we really believe that God has given you skills, has given you passion, has given you education to glorify Him. So it's just finding ways to join Him in what He's doing on the world. Our catchphrase is joining Jesus in His mission. So we really want to pair those things for individuals and for churches.
Hello, my name is Zach. I'm with Mercy Projects. We changed our name a few years ago from a little bit more descriptive thing, so I'll give you that one. It's Eastern European Outreach, and so we still predominantly work in Eastern Europe, and then a little bit lower, actually down in Kosovo. And we have a host, or an action team from APU, again, going to Kosovo. I think there's about 5 of you. Are any of those 5 in the room? I see. I think I'm meeting you in a couple of minutes, so. Sweet. Yes. So what we do primarily is we have one more question. Sorry. Has anybody watched? There's an HBO series out right now about Chernobyl. Yes. Heavy stuff. But so the birth really of our ministry was kind of a few years after that. We were doing work in Russia, but then we started a family sponsorship program in Ukraine with our Ukrainian staff and the nationals there, and basically in a response originally to helping a lot of those families that were kind of coming out of that area, and it's grown kind of from that. So I would say a large portion of where we work is the Ukraine, but also down in Kosovo is specifically working in, it's a predominantly Muslim community, but there's a local pastor there that we're kind of partnering with, and he has like little to no resources outside of us, just because even within the Christian community, there's even a smaller Protestant, and he's kind of out there on his own. So thank you, APU, for sending people out there to him. I know he appreciates it, and just even in prepping for this next one, he's just so excited to meet you wherever you are, and the other 4 of you, wherever you're at.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know that for me, a lot of the reason I got into this work is deeply personal. God put a call on my life while I was in college, and I was not expecting it. I would love to hear from each of you. How did you get into this work? What was your calling into ministry like? How did that work for you?
Sure. I would say that for me, it was a really windy road. When I was in college, I had literally no idea what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew that I wanted to serve God, and I felt like I wanted to be in some kind of full-time ministry, and I didn't know if that was mission field or what that looked like. So I went to China in between my freshman and sophomore year, and was there for the summer, and it was really hard. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I kind of failed that summer because it was just way more than I realized that international ministry was. And so I came home kind of feeling like, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be a missionary. That was really hard. But I still feel like I really want to serve God. And I ended up connecting with Young Life and became a Young Life leader. Yeah, woo! And then when I graduated college, I actually went on to staff with Young Life. So that was awesome. I loved the ministry with high school kids and being really in their lives and just seeing God work. And I would have kept doing that, except our local chapter ran out of money and I was out of a job. So that was kind of crappy. And I was like, okay, Lord, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. So I got a job at a hotel. I had a friend who worked there and she helped me get a job. And it was not what I wanted to be doing, but I needed a job. I needed to pay rent, so it worked. And after a couple of years there, I ended up moving to Colorado and I got another job in the travel industry as a escape planner for a destination club that did luxury travel. So that was really cool too. I was still doing travel kind of stuff, but it was for really, really wealthy people. So they were spending like $40,000 on a golf weekend to the Dominican Republic. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but could you maybe use that $40,000 for something else in the Dominican Republic? Like, there's a lot of poverty there. So I really wrestled with that I loved what I was doing, but it was just kind of almost appalling to me how much money there was in the world that was just being used on kind of just frivolous stuff. So then that job ended up in 2010, after the whole recession of the late 2008, 2009, went into bankruptcy, lost my job again. And so I was like, all right, Lord, maybe this is the time to make a big change. And this job opened up at Group Mission Trips as this mission trip advisor. And I got it. That was about just over 9 years ago. And it's just been really neat to see how God used this whole kind of winding road to bring me full circle to where I'm doing ministry. You know, I'm helping folks like you go out and serve. I get to go out and spend time with our ministry partners in different countries, and just seeing that we are using money for good in a lot of ways now, you know, to be able to send teams and do big projects. And so it's just been neat. So if you're in a place where you don't know what you're supposed to do with your life, just trust that God has you on the path and he will get you there. And it might take 15 years for it to kind of all click and be like, oh, now I see why I had to work there and there and there. But God is in control and he's got it. So, yeah.
I think similar. Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry. I think.
They were trying to clap for her.
Can you clap her up? All right, that's enough. Done. So now I think, similarly to Robin, like my path has been really windy, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to go into ministry. I'm from a really small town, and somehow I really liked archaeology. And I wanted to be a female Indiana Jones, and that's what I thought I was doing with my life, and going to be a professor at a university and taking students on like these archaeological excavations like every summer and be that cool professor that does things like that. And I wound up studying like anthropology in college, and then this lady at my church like walked up to me. she's like, oh, you like Israel. Cool, because you want to do archaeology. And she's like, well, we have this school in the Palestinian territories, and you should go and be a teacher there. And I was like, cool, I'll pray about that. I didn't. Let's be real, right? Like, I respected her, didn't pray. But, so this, like, story just kept coming up. Like, people saying, like, Lindsay, I think you should go teach at this school. And I was like, I don't like kids. So, like, it just, it, like, perpetuated itself, right? Like, but eventually, like, it really was clear that I was supposed to go and teach at this school. And I had no idea what I was doing. I'm not a trained teacher by no means, but luckily God was, like, there and in the midst of it. And I also, like, studied anthropology, so that meant, like, I needed to watch and learn and observe and ask questions, which was really, really helpful. And I got there. It was hard. Loved the culture, loved the people, loved learning from them. And what I thought was going to be like a one-year commitment just turned into me thinking I was going to live there for the rest of my life, and my visa got revoked. Like, so as soon as I got there, not as soon as I got there, but once I was, like, really comfortable, like, yes, I can do this, I'm going to be a missionary, like, rug is, like, pulled out from under me, and I was like, all right, come back to the States, and floundered. Like, okay, don't know what I'm going to do now. Oh, this is fun. And I actually found out about Fuller, Karen's alma mater, and I found out about this course called Perspectives on the World Christian Movement. And I packed up my stuff, I moved to Pasadena and started working for that organization, not knowing very much about it. But when I took Perspectives, it actually was a really good debrief for me after coming home from the field. I actually found out that, like, it's not your, like, an overseas missionary or nothing else. I think sometimes in the church we put missionaries on a pedestal, and it is a calling, and it's a special calling that God places in people's life. But really what God calls us to do is join him, right, in his mission, and to be intentional about what we're doing. If we stay or we go, that's a secondary issue, but it's really about how are we joining with what God is doing. And so I was radically shifted by that idea in Perspectives, and I found out that there was a role that I felt like really, like, for me, I didn't feel like I was called to go back overseas and do this similar work, but I felt like I was called to stay here, share with people the mistakes I made, share with them what God was doing, and hope that they wouldn't make some of the similar ones that I did, and really, like, help them find their place. Like, are you an accountant? Are you a journalist? Or are you an artist? Like, how can we take that skill and really pair it with what God's doing locally and globally? So that's how I got involved in mobilization and really, like, paired a lot of the things that I was passionate about. Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope when you guys are listening to this that it's not necessarily, these are just our stories. They're not like rubrics, exclusively how God has to work, and most of you probably will not be working for, like, a classic missions organization. It's a beautiful job, but, like, let's be like, that doesn't have to be it. So if you hear anything, I just hope that you're encouraged, kind of by, like, the last portion of what you're saying, of just joining where Christ was. So all that to say, give me a little grace. I'm a Biola alumni. Get it out. Get it out. I can hear you from the other remote campus. Get it out. But I love APU. You guys, I'm here. I'm here. So, anywho, I was actually studying music over there, of all things. And I was going in whatever direction that was. And I don't regret it for a moment. But so to back up a little bit, I come from ministry stock, I guess, if you will. But kind of my dad's been a pastor from day one of when I was born. Kind of live about an hour and a half south of here, so Southern Californian. And I think by the grace of God, I didn't fall off as a pastor's kid, the edge yet. But where coming from, it was so, I think my parents involved me, especially not only in kind of local ministry, and that being kind of my extended family. Most of my extended family were not Christians, and so that was like my little family. But they would bring me to Haiti and the Philippines and all these places that maybe you shouldn't bring like a third grade, little white kid to. He's just not ready, but I'm glad they did in hindsight. And so I think when I was going to the other school, studying music, and thinking maybe I'm gonna be doing something like this on a stage for a church. And that's where God has me, and He still has used that. But I was not really looking for this job or to be on stage or at APU. But I'm just messing with you guys. Come on. But really, in hindsight, the small ministry I'm at now, they never hire, and so again. Sorry if you're looking for a job, maybe if I leave, you could have my job. But in hindsight, like I knew the directors for a long time. And so I always dismissed it for probably years of like, well, it's just who you know, and kind of like kicking God out of the equation. But kind of in hindsight, like we never hire. I'm still the newbie. I've been there a dozen years. And so it's like that just lining up with me getting, coming out of college, thinking I have my bachelor's so I can get whatever job I want now. And it being 2008 and just talk to your parents. A lot of people are losing jobs and houses and all that kind of stuff that year. And yeah, so it was just a crummy year for everybody. But it basically just fell in my lap and realized, oh my goodness, I wasn't looking for it, but I remember in college kind of getting to the point of like, I like traveling, I like, ministry stuff, but kind of that's as far as it developed in my head. And I guess just the more adults you talk to, and I encourage you to go home, talk to your parents, talk to the guys out there on the Cougar Walk, like they're all trying to figure it out too. And that's so encouraging as like a college student. It's like, oh, I don't have, you have like this deadline of like graduation and I had to have everything together. It's like, that's not the case. But, and so I got to this point where like, I enjoy this, I feel some sort of tug, but God, like, that's all I got to work on at this point. I'm open, and that's all I can give you. He's like, okay, I'll work with that. And so now, again, most of the time I'm in an office, working on a website, doing gift entry. Like people are like, oh, you work for a mission organization. I'm like, it's not as flashy as you think it is, but kind of seeing it in the bigger picture of like this is enabling other people who are called to Ukraine full time or to go or to whatever to kind of do their job and kind of get out of the way and just let God kind of do His work. So,
thank you all so much for sharing. As I'm thinking about your stories, I think what I see is that you went as learners in so many different capacities that you were in. You were learning about who you were and who God was calling you to be. And we talk about that all the time on this campus, that we really want to go as learners. Like I said, we know we're not bringing God anywhere, but God is already at work. I'm curious, with the little time that we have left, how do you see going into whatever capacity that you find yourself, whether it's that office job or whether it's out on the field, encouraging your full-time missionaries? What does it look like to first be a learner for you? And two, how have you been a recipient? Like, how has there been someone maybe on the field, someone in this work who's been more mature than you, where you've really had to learn what this experience has been like? Lindsay, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I think when I've gone as a learner, a lot of it, like when I think about like my first few years of living in Palestine, it was just sitting and eating at people's tables, listening, like trying to listen really well, not with a response that I already had, but like to be able to take it in and ask questions. Like just ask really simple but and basic questions that really gets conversation going. And I think, can I share an experience? I think asking for practical help is one of those. And I was invited to a party. I actually just found like some of my journal entries of this year, and it was to a party, and I was pulled on stage to dance, and I realized I did not know how to dance the same way that these women knew how to dance. And so it was really awkward, and I'm pretty sure I looked at the audience and they were laughing at me because I could not move the way that those ladies moved. And like, I asked the lady that invited me, I was like, can you teach me how to dance? And it was just like a simple thing of me asking, like, and wanting to learn in the ways that they do things that I really feel like opened up a lot of doors. And how have I been a recipient? Oh, that's really, really a good question. The principal, I will say, like, no, sorry, I'm like thinking about like different ways. So one of the things that like has been a desire of mine is to be in leadership in an agency. A majority of the mission force, it's 2/3 women, and you don't actually see that very much in like the leadership of like agencies. You don't see as many women. And I've just had really wonderful male leaders who like come in and poured into me and have said like, we want to teach you just kind of the ropes around here. And I've been able just to really, really be able to soak in from them just like tips and how do you lead well. I still got a long way to go, and God's also been really kind of putting like women who have been in positions of leadership in these agencies as well in my life to like just teach me new things I haven't thought about, just some of the barriers that may have to be crossed that I haven't even thought about again at all. So,
would you share, as we get ready to close our time together, if you could give one word of encouragement to these college students, whether or not they're thinking about full-time missions or ministry, if you could give one word of encouragement, what would it be to them?
Love.
is it just a word? Like, can I expand on it a little bit? I don't know. Oh gosh. Okay. Your whole story matters. That God uses every part of your story to be about his work and his mission. So don't discount it. Don't discount the hard. Don't discount all of the like bad that you think is bad in your story. It's all redeemable and can be used for his glory.
That's good. Zach?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know. This is the first thing that came to my mind, and so it's probably insight into my the inner workings of my brain. So sorry, but maybe relax, enjoy wherever situation. So I met my wife at college, and we have. Yeah, thank you.
That's really his word for you.
That wasn't my main point. But anyways, now I'm just derailed. But yeah, and just we have so many fond memories of like this time where you guys are at. And it doesn't matter what time of life you're in. You can find someone that's like 10 years older, and they'll look at you like, oh, like for me, I have like a bunch of kids, like 3 kids under the age of 5, and like we're ripping our hair out, and like people are like, I just wish my kids were this age. And it doesn't matter what age, you could be 70, 80, whatever. You're gonna find someone that can that's older and speak into that time. And so if anything, and if you're a similar personality as me, it's just relax, enjoy like this time, and don't think that life is about, okay, when I finally get this, and this together, like, okay, now I can focus. Because a lot of times, like, I've heard it a ton. A lot of times it's like, oh, because I just get pushed out to like when I retire, then I can devote my whole, like, it's such a waste of like this beautiful time now. So
That's right.
chill out.
Thank you. Would you join me in thanking our panel? As you have heard, they have a lot to say. So make sure that you stop by their booths and ask them more questions. Thank you and engage with this week. God bless.